Yo, what is up guys? In this video, I'm going to teach you how you can get cracked fast at Fortnite in Chapter 6. Do you ever get that feeling where you feel like you're in a bit of a plateau in your skill? Well, today we are going to change that. As if you've been subbed to me for a while, you know that I post these videos every few months, and here is the Chapter 6 Season 4 updated version, as this season has brought lots of changes and new ways that you can improve as fast as possible, so make sure you watch this video all the way through if you really want to improve. Please do drop a like and subscribe for much more content. Let's get straight into this. Okay, so this video is going to be segmented down into multiple key parts, and you need to master each individual part to get as cracked as fast as possible. Now, part 1 of today's video is all going to be about focusing on having an effective warm-up routine. So starting off, we are going to talk about your warm-up. Now, before you click off this video, because you're going to say that you've heard this tip so many times before in previous videos, remember that if you felt like you really weren't improving, you wouldn't have clicked on this video in the first place. Now, I feel like so many of us load onto Fortnite and view the warm-up as solely an exercise to get your mechanics warm, for example, to get ready to play some ranked or a tournament game. But actually, during your warm-up, this is the best part of your session and the best time to create and see actual improvement within your game. Your warm-up is your time where you can learn anything and learn new skills which will be used in your muscle memory if you can implement them correctly, to then be used in in-game situations to be better. Now, I do have a few practice maps which I recommend you guys include in your warm-up routine if you are really trying to step up your game and take it to the next level. Firstly, we have Raiders V5 practice map. I like to think of this as just an everything map where you can learn where you can really improve like your mechanics and your aim, for example, through many of the drills that are on the map. Although what you can also do if you are wanting to work on your aim is head over to headshot only box fights. Again, this allows you to practice your aim because you can only deal damage with a headshot to your opponent, so therefore encompassing your aim practice and your edit practice at the same time. What I will say is that everyone's routine and warm-up should be different, as it should be tailored to your own skill and also tailored to the amount of time you can play. For example, if you could only warm up for half an hour a day, I'd recommend doing 10 minutes of aim, 10 minutes of editing, for example, and mechanics, and then 10 minutes of piece control. Obviously, whatever map you choose to do is your own preference, but I've given you guys some examples. Again, I can give you guys the ideas and knowledge and the maps necessary on how to improve and get cracked, but overall, it's down to you guys to be disciplined and tailor the routine to yourself in order to get as cracked as fast as possible within this season. Now, before the rest of today's video, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Eldorado. It is a website based on safe and easy trading, allowing you to have access to a multitude of games such as Fortnite, GTA, Call of Duty, Valorant, Roblox, and more. If you're all wondering how, all you've got to do is head over to Eldorado, find your game of your choice, pick your platform, of which they have multiple, find one that fits your needs, and go ahead and click on from there. Eldorado has a very safe community with very reputable salesmen, but they still do offer 24-hour support and a money-back guarantee in case you don't like what you get. So when you head on down, please use code MANZANOSIS to make sure what you're getting is at a discount, and thank you again to Eldorado for sponsoring today's video. Now, for the next part of today's video, I want to talk about playing ranked. So let's talk about ranked in general. Now, I don't know if you guys have played, but this season, when I've been playing ranked, I haven't really found it that fun, especially as the main ranked BR player base this season has been incredibly low, and often I've just found myself getting beamed by the minigun or third-partied by people with Fizz and super launch pads, so it's not really that good, and it kind of makes you want to get off and play ranked reload instead, for example. Now, luckily, what has worked for me and what I'm going to give you guys is a couple tips that have really changed my perspective on ranked and how I've been playing it in terms of practicing. Now, the first tip of this is going to be playing ranked like a tournament in general, so it could be like a solo series. So you could set aside 2 or 3 hours to play either 7 or 10 games, depending on how much time you have of solo ranked, and end up taking it really seriously as if it was a tournament. Now, this does work better if you are in the higher ranks, but what you could do is you could keep track of your points and see how well you perform. You could even set yourself a target of eliminations which you might want to get over these 10 games. So for example, in the last solo series week, you might have only got 8 kills in 10 games. So this week, you're going to try and get 20, and you're going to practice that through getting kills in ranked as if it was the solo series. Now, I know it's much easier to get a high placement, for example, in ranked, but if you can practice against Unreal and Champ players, these will likely be the same players that you play when it comes around to a solo series cup day, allowing you to really improve your fighting if you're regularly eliminating these opponents. Now, tip number 2 in ways which you can play ranked in order to make it more fun is by playing ranked with targets and objectives. Now, you can play and set yourself targets such as not being able to come offline until you rank up or until you reach the next certain thousand within Unreal, for example, or the goal could just be something as simple as like you can't get off until you've got a 5 elimination plus kill game or a 10 kill plus game, for example, if you're playing against Champ and Unreal players. If you are really looking to improve your fighting, you want to make sure that you're disciplined within yourself and stick to these targets or goals, because you'll find find it becoming way more fun as you start to have something to work toward and you're no longer just playing aimlessly and actually have something to aim for. With Ranked 2.0 on the horizon and the likelihood that it will come out in Chapter 7, I definitely think Ranked is going to be on the up in the future, so implementing it correctly into your routine right now to help get better is definitely crucial. Now, part 3 of today's video is going to be focused on improving your fighting. Now, I'll cover very briefly right now what is necessary to improve and really level up. Firstly, creative is the fastest way to improve, whether this be in simple maps such as 1v1 mechanics map by Raider, 1v1 speed realistics by Kenbeans, or just 1v1 build fights by Reason, for example. Now, these maps allow you to get into constant situations every 1 minute or so, whereas if you were playing a ranked game, you may go 5 or 10 minutes within the mid game without getting into a single fight. Now, if you just take the maths on this, you can do 5 fights in speed realistics or 1v1s by Kenbeans that you can do the time you get 1 fight in an actual ranked game. So therefore, you get 5 times the amount of reps and practice in speed realistics as you do compared to playing in a general ranked match. Now, of course, this isn't everything, as Ranked has its benefits with it being in-game, but this is why we combine both creative practice, for example, in 1v1 maps like Speed Realistics, and also in-game practice with Ranked like we talked in the previous tip. I'd say that when trying to improve your fighting, something that is really overlooked is that you want to try and make sure you find a friend group of a couple players that are around your skill, for example, where you can then load into a map such as Zone Wars 1v1s or 2v2s and practice fighting against each other. Now, these players should be slightly better than you because you always want to play with people better than you so you're not being held back by others, but what is important to note is that whilst you're practicing fighting, you can try out the new moves and advanced plays which you have been practicing and learning during your warm-up, for example, which is obviously what I spoke about in the first part of this video. Now, if you do need any help trying to find these players that I'm on about, I do have a link in the description down below, which is a link to my community Discord server, and in there you can find other players around your skill that also want to improve and practice with each other, whilst also becoming a crucial member of my community by joining the server, which is of course much appreciated. So now moving on to part 4 of today's video, it's going to be about how to properly prepare and play for tournaments. Now, when we talk about this part, there's really only one way which can prepare yourself for a tournament as best as possible, and is the best and closest practice you can get to actual in-game tournament scenarios. These are going to be scrims. Now, there are many scrim servers at the moment in Chapter 6, like Noble Scrims on EU or Elite Scrims or Poyo. I think Nobles is the best. On NA, I believe you have Manu Scrims and also Elites if you are watching this from NA. But anyway, all of these different servers hold dedicated practice sessions, often that are 3 hours long, like the Duo Cups or the Solo Series, for example. Now, the most notable for solos is probably Noble Solos, as these have leaderboards that track your placement points and also your elimination points, with very similar formats to those being used in a Solo Series Cup on a Sunday. Now, often the players in this are very high skilled and have thousands and thousands of PR points, so you can really get good tailored practice similar to that of those solo Cash Cup games which you are going to play. Now, when you do go and play these scrims, often they have Storm Surge and stacked endgames, so it's important that when you die, you go back and watch what you did wrong and note this down, whether this be a bad crash pad rotate or an incorrect use of Fizz, for example. Then, when it comes around to a tournament game, you can look at these notes on the day when you're about to queue in and try and eliminate yourself from doing these mistakes in the game in the future. Similarly, if you do have a good scrim game and place well, you can try and identify the key moments that led to you getting that highlight placement. Was it maybe when you tried to look at height and pick height, and maybe when you got height and then got a refresh which you needed in endgame? For example, it could just be something like that, but that is for you to work out and note down, and then read this on tournament day to make sure that you try and do similar things like getting a refresh or taking height at the correct time in a tournament game such as the Solo Series when you are looking to place well and improve. Now, for the 5th part of today's video, I want to talk about something which I mention a lot in my videos and I feel is actually really important, and that's going to be improving your mentality. Because in order to actually improve and get cracked at Fortnite fast, you really need to improve your mentality alongside your own gameplay skill. This is because it's crucial, because I do have 3 different main pointers about improving your mentality and why it's important to your game. Now, the first of these is staying calm under pressure. Now, in order to stay calm under pressure, especially when it comes to like a tournament game or endgame, for example, you need to make sure that you're staying calm, and the reason for this is because if you stay calm, it allows you to make smarter and more clear decisions. Now, to do this, you could use breathing techniques such as taking some deep breaths before a game to help control your nerves, and also by focusing on the process of something and not the result. Instead of messing around and stressing about winning a game, concentrate on executing your game plan in order to get to that position and stay focused on your mechanics. Now, this should help you reduce the pressure that you're feeling and also make sure that you are preparing correctly for both wins and losses, because let's face it, you're not going to win every game, so embracing your mistakes mistakes and your losses is a positive movement, because you're going to make mistakes during a tournament, so you need to learn and accept them in order to move forward quickly. I also think it's worth mentioning my last 2 tips when it comes to mentality, and that's going to be the first one is celebrating your small victories, such as a good placement, a good decision, or a solid play, because it helps you keep in a positive mental space, which is really important when it comes to a game. Lastly, I want to mention that you need to set realistic goals for yourself in terms of mentality, and this should be something that's a small achievable target instead of focusing on something mental like winning a tournament or qualifying to the solo series finals. Your target could be something like improving your positioning, improving your rotations, or improving how deep you get into endgames, as this is what will really help you improve your performance and reduce nerves when it comes around to future tournaments. You obviously also want to make sure that you are consistent with your regular practice and improving on your past performances, as this will help you build confidence and reduce the mental strain in the future when it comes around to a tournament day, to make sure you're feeling as good and ready to go as possible. To those of you that have reached part of this video, you've just spent 10 minutes of your time learning and improving at the game by educating yourself, and now you can put that into practice and go get them really good tournament placements. I wish you guys the best. Thank you for watching. Peace out from me.